Hello again. Welcome back to the Changing the Narrative podcast, everyone. Dr. Gabriel Warren along with Carl Benson here, and we are excited to have another guest on the Changing the Narrative podcast. So today we have Josh Cobb. Josh, thanks for being a part of the show here for us.
Yeah, thank you guys for inviting me. It's a big honor. I was pleasantly surprised when you guys reached out, so I'm very appreciative.
Absolutely. Well, one of the cool things about the podcast is that we get to introduce the world to people that, maybe they don't know about, and things that people are doing that maybe they don't always think about when they think of a Black man. So we always like to start by asking you to share a little bit about who you are and your background and some of the things you're doing.
Yeah, so I kind of give you guys it all, and then we kind of just decide where we want to go. But yeah, my name is Josh Cobb. I am a full-time Black man. That's how I usually describe myself first. I am from St. Paul, Minnesota, born and raised. I guess what I do for work is I am a writer, I'm a storyteller, I'm a producer. So that's what I do 9 to 5. Outside of that, anything creatively I can try to get my hands on, whether it's, I'm really big into film, music. I'm really big into that. I love just having conversations like this one, just about culture and about the world around us with friends and just whoever I encounter in life. So yeah.
That's cool. Before we move to the next question, Carl, just a quick follow-up. What types of writings do you do? What types of producing? Could you expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I should have said it. Yeah, so for the last half decade, I've been working in journalism, so in news, whether that's TV news, print. Currently, I contribute to a radio station, so kind of like a triple threat wherever I'm needed to do like longer form stuff or just like your daily updates that you might just tap in for. But yeah, I've done projects, deeper investigative work here locally, very hyper local stuff, independent stuff, and I've also done a stint at doing cable news for national broadcast.
Awesome.
Yeah,
very cool. And I knew a little bit of that, Josh, but could you dig in a little bit on what it's like or how important it is as a Black man to be that type of storyteller, to be that type of person who sort of is out there and sort of telling it from your perspective, but also just being in that career field?
I mean, it is very important. I would say that first, but it's just like any other field where we're just not represented in there. It's your voice is invaluable. I've been in spaces a lot where you just kind of have to guide people to look at things from a different perspective. And just me being a young Black man specifically, it's important, it's crucial, it's vital. We just have a tap into the pulse of what we're feeling, what's going on, the world around us, a different perspective. Just being able to be in these meetings to say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? But also do it in a way that you can still navigate corporate America. As we all know, when we're in these spaces, a lot of times, you already have the two strikes. You are already seen as aggressive or hard to work with or mean, or if you're not smiling every other second, it's like, oh, okay, does he like me? Does he not like me? You might have to stop at a couple cubicles along the way to your walk to the bathroom. It's just a lot of things that you got to do. So I think for me specifically, yeah, I'm always trying, and everyone knows this too, is I'm always trying to advocate and just push the boundaries of what regular news coverage is. The media shapes the way we think about everything around us, right? It shapes the way that we think about other races, other types of people. It shapes our beauty standards. It shapes everything. And so when you think about it like that, you have you have to check your own biases. And I've had conversations with coworkers, with people. Sometimes they're friendly, sometimes they're very stern about like, hey, you need to be doing this, or hey, we need to stop doing this.
Man, that's a very powerful thing that you just mentioned. I mean, like being able to just have the ability to help shape that narrative, positive, negative, all those things. So because of that, I wonder what motivates you to do what you do each day? Like, is there a motivating thing or two that you kind of look at or kind of remind yourself of each day?
Yeah. So what motivates me is just what got me into the business initially, right? When I went, kind of like a little background on me, when I went to college, just my whole life, I was always that little skinny black kid with the glasses that always said he wanted to be a doctor, right? And so that was my track. And so I never really interrogated that idea. I just went to college. I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna do something medical related. I love sports. I wanted to be able to combine those two worlds. And I was good at it. My grades have always been good ever since I was a kid, but I just hated it. I hated spending my entire weeks in labs. I love being around, spending more time with my people. I was heavily involved in our Black Student Union, student government. I was like, I just can't juggle all this. I would much rather be with my people. And so I really had to ask myself, like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you love doing? And in my spare time, I used to write blog posts about the NBA.
Mm.
Just I used to just post them on Facebook. Didn't care if anybody read it. Sometimes I would have my homies hit me up like, "Hey, you're tripping on this," or "I love that you did this." But yeah, I would love doing it. I remember in some of my classes we would do projects, and sometimes I would just write about how I was feeling about a particular topic. Like
Mm.
I was in college when the Colin Kaepernick stuff was happening, and I just wrote like 1,000, 2,000 word post about like what I was feeling, and I just presented it to my class, got an A on it. And so
Mhm.
I thought about it. I was like, hey, like I do this already. I'm already pretty good at this. Can I make money off of this? Can I make a career out of
Right.
this? And so I went to St. Cloud State, and it just happens to be one of the top journalism schools in the region, in the Midwest. And so I just stumbled upon that. They showed me like, hey, yeah, you can make money off of this. You can do this, and kind of just pushed me in the news track. And I guess to bring it back to your question, what motivates me is that writing. I get like a little high like every time I get to write something, and I get to see some of my published work. Like, oh yeah, I conceptualized this idea. I was able to write this, and I was able to utilize my voice. And I think that all that it encapsulates what motivates me is me being able to tell stories, to be able to use it to tell stories with my voice, and I think like just stuff like this, like interviews, like they're manufactured, but I get to meet a lot of different people. I get to have conversations with a lot of different people, understand how they think, and I just love like I'm not really good. I don't like operating in like big crowds. I hate networking events, but I love like one-on-one, small group conversations just about life. And I think that's what motivates me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think I think we buried the lead a little bit too here. You are a two-time Emmy-winning producer. Is that correct? I mean,
That's correct. I
yeah,
do have two
I,
images. Yes.
yeah, yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us one what they're for, I guess, but then also how did it happen?
Yeah. So, for the last year and a half, 2 years, actually maybe more than that, 3 years, I looked at myself and I was like, hey, I love being in these spaces, but I want to be able to I want to be around other Black producers. Like I can't, I could probably count a number on one hand of the amount of Black producers, Black male producers specifically, that I ran into. And so I took a risk. I was like, hey, I'm going to go down south. I'm going to work for an all Black, publication. And I came back up here and I was like, yeah, I'm going to work for an independent Black owned media company. And so I say that to say that, how I got it was it's essentially there for two stories that we pitched and we wanted to highlight in the community. There's a nonprofit organization here called Black Men Teach. Love everything they stand for, love everything they do. Um, Bridging the gap, getting Black men to be elementary school teachers specifically, because there's a missing need for that here in the state of Minnesota. Even though everyone says education here is so great, we have some glaring blind spots, and so we pitched a story on it. I wrote it. I produced it. Helped shoot it, and we got our Emmy for that. And then we got an Emmy for I believe it was for our. We did like an investigative piece. We did something on I believe George Floyd. I think was that. But yeah, we did a lot of stuff. And so yeah, that's where they came. So one of the Emmys is for that one specific piece that Black Men Teach, and then the other Emmys for an entire newscast that we did as well. And that was in the Emmys last year, so 2023, the Upper Midwest region. So it wasn't a national Emmy, but it's regional. But I'm, it's on my bookshelf. I look at it every. It's the national one. So in this house, I feel like Ryan Coogler. So or Spike Lee. So we're gonna rock with that. So
Man, congratulations. That's big.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So taking some of your, obviously what you've done and some of the stories you've done, how do you perceive, or how do you see the portrayals of Black male masculinity, I should say, in media, contributing generally to the misconceptions of Black men? Like, how do you see, not from your perspective of doing it, but what do you see in that, the way the media portrays that?
Yeah, I struggle with it sometimes because now that I know how the sausage is made, and then just living it and consuming media my entire life, it's hard. The stereotypes are there. We're put in a box. Either and it's not just media. Like, it's just in real life. Like, we're either really happy or we're really angry, and those are the only two things that you can kind of express on camera. And that comes up like specifically with news. Like, yeah, you can be happy. Like, we'll celebrate your wins when you scored 30 points in a basketball game, or we'll put you on the news, or we'll put you on the media when you're accused of a crime. And so I have a specific example. I remember one time I was working in a newsroom and a Black man was killed. And usually, we're like, when people are killed, people are usually humanized, right? We go to the pictures of like their families and their kids and like, hey, this is the outpouring of support that they have. And the picture that they were about to use was the picture of the Black man with a blunt in his hand. And I was like, I'm sure, I don't have a problem with him smoking weed, but we know our audience. We know that the audience is predominantly white. When they see a Black man that was killed, that has a blunt in his hand, without any context, they're going to look at it and be like, oh yeah, he probably deserved to die. He probably was a thug. And so I stopped it, thankfully. I was like, no, we got to crop that out. I wasn't high on a totem pole, but I said it with my chest. And there wasn't really much pushback. It was like, oh yeah, that's probably the safe thing to do. I was like, yeah, let's not incriminate this man, after he just passed. So it's just a lot of stuff like that. And I think because of my experience, I'm able to decipher, I'm able to filter it in my mind. I do everything that I can. But yeah, it's hard seeing that, seeing that coming up. I know for me coming up, I didn't really see a lot of Black men that I felt like I wanted to be like in my life. You're going around, you're either pastors in churches or you're in the street. And I grew up in St. Paul. It's not like the craziest hoods in America, but it's enough, it's enough to see like, oh, okay, I grew up with him and I see him going that route. I grew up with him. Oh, okay, he's in jail now. Like, it was just, it's just happened. There wasn't a lot of people like me that I knew, like, hey, that wants to read books and wants, like, it's also like cool, can kick it with everybody, but wants to, do something that's bigger than just the 5-mile radius that I grew up in. And so it's, yeah, I found that you have to just find a lot of this stuff from within. You have to find a lot of the motivation. You have to, build yourself up by your bootstraps. I guess that's what they say. But yeah, you gotta really grab hold on to whatever you want in your life, and you just can't let go. You can't let go. And I think that I'm definitely blessed. But it took a lot of years, and I'm still nowhere near where I want to go. I was even talking to Carl when he texted me to get me on here. I was like, "Are you guys sure?" Like, I'm still sorting out my life, and I still feel like I don't have anything together. But sometimes I talk to friends and they're like, you're actually doing something decent. You're on the right path. So yeah.
A little bit, yeah. You're figuring it out.
Right.
That's
right.
impressive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now, if you had to write out like your life's mission statement in one sentence, or it could be more than that, What would you say? I mean, what would be your life's mission statement?
So I heard something a couple years ago that really resonated with me. So do you guys know who Wendell Pierce is?
I
I don't.
do.
Yeah,
From
he's
the wire, from the wire.
he played Bunk in The Wire. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you locked in, Carl. You locked in.
Yeah.
So there was a sports podcast I was listening to. He was on, and he said something really powerful. He said that something that he always tells his kids, all the men in his life, is never to let your insecurities be bigger than your dreams.
Mm.
And I think that's just, and that's something that I've really embodied now. I think that I realized after I heard that, I really like processed it. I was like, wow, like a lot of the things I'm doing, like the ways I'm moving is out of fear. It's out of fear of rejection or feeling, you know, failing or, feeling neglected or just feeling inadequate. And instead of like a place out of power, out of like, hey, this is my dream and this is what I'm gonna do. A lot of times we think out of lack and instead of like abundance. We all have gifts. I have not met a Black man that does not have a natural gift. Whether it's just simply talking or it's like graphic design or leading or with numbers or whatever. It's just, I mean, however we use them, however we manifest it, it just happens that way. But we all have gifts. And I just feel like if I lean into that, lean into what I have, my desires, um, and to acknowledge my insecurities, but also build upon it and like not let that be paralyzing. Because I feel like that's what it's happened to me a lot. Like I'll be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'll just not do anything. And it's like, no,
Right.
I can still like. I feel like I have not tapped my potential because I spent years moving out of fear, and so I think that's my mission now is just to do that and just to be the best that I can be. Um, and however I'm rewarded for that, however I'm rewarded for trying to be better, that's God's decision. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love Bunk, and I love, I love
love
that
them
you
both.
pull. I
Yeah,
love that you pulled from that, and the show obviously is fantastic too. So,
right.
um, so just thinking of some of the things you've mentioned already, but what's one misconception our society as a whole has about Black men that you'd like to eradicate completely?
Ooh, there's a lot of different directions you can go.
Yeah, I know, right?
Um, so I want to go off of something that's a little bit newer. So we already know the stereotypes and the misconceptions. But as of late, there has been a really big push for Black men to really be more in tune with their emotions, to heal from past traumas, and to really be our best selves and be more emotionally intelligent and everything of that nature. Go to therapy, all that.
Mhm.
And I retweet all that. Yes, I'm with all that. I love it. I think that the hardest part for me specifically, and just the people that I know that have done the work on themselves as Black men, is that it's hard to re-enter society with that new frame of thought. So the thing I would change is that I would change that I'm trying to think of how to say this. I would love for us to be able to re-enter society and to be accepted with our newer evolved self. So
Mm.
example, like if I just feel like for me, like if I try to, now that I know like what my triggers are or things that make me happy, if I'm in a friendship and I set boundaries, it's like, oh, this you're being kind of weird now. It's like what's going on? Or if, like I'm really big, one thing I really love is accountability and consistency. So if you're one of my homies and I see you acting out of pocket, I'm gonna say something. And I expect that to be well received. Like obviously, criticism isn't always the easiest to accept, but like something so like things like that. In short, I really want us to be able to heal, but then to also enter society and to be accepted for being whatever emotional. Like if I was able to like, cool, I went to therapy, but what does that therapy mean if I can't actually do it in practice? If I still feel restricted and emotionally incarcerated if I have to cry.
Right.
or if I have to express to you that I feel anxious about something, or
Right.
feel inadequate after something happened, I should be able to still be able to, if we're all saying that Black men need to heal, then I should still be able to practice that in society.
That's funny you mentioned that, because we were just having some conversations with some young people, and they're younger than you, like these are teenage boys, but the similar concept came up. It's like, well, we talk about healing, we talk about being vulnerable and whatnot.
Yeah,
Then once you are, you're kind of
it's
could be
weaponized.
attacked by exactly. It's weaponized
Yeah,
against you for being that way. So that's interesting that you said that. And it was really a conversation I probably had like 2 weeks ago.
yeah. I mean, it's
So
a thing.
it's yeah,
It's a
yeah.
thing, you know, and I think that it's, um, I think of my life kind of like pre-therapy, pre-therapy and post-therapy. And I think that I've had
Right.
a harder time navigating life after settling a lot of these traumas and really evolving into who I am today. Um, Sometimes it's hard. And I remember at one time I was talking about therapists. I was like, damn, I kind of wish that I was never came, because I felt like I was had an easier time navigating. I mean, I probably was doing some toxic stuff, and probably a lot of stuff wasn't healthy for me, but it felt easier. You know, it's hard to do this work, but I guess they always say all good things
Mm.
require a lot of work and trials and tribulations. So
Wow. Man, that's powerful, man. I mean, what you're saying, I mean, because I think just from people that I know, I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of Black men specifically don't want to go to therapy and don't want to engage in doing that work, because of what you're just describing. So thanks for being able to bring that out and naming that, because I think it's truly important for sure.
oh, for sure, for sure.
Mm. So now, what does success look like from your perspective?
Success, honestly, the way I've been feeling, um, success to me looks like nobody's opinions, nobody's actions altering my overall plight as a man. I really love it when I see people moving the way they want to, and not worrying about how it's going to be received or what my next meal is going to be. And
Mm.
so it's just security in that, security in my resume, security in the people around me, security in my bank account, um, and just freedom. You know, um, we live in a world, capitalism, where we're always pushed for hustle culture and to get the next title and to get the next thing. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think those things are nice. I think that it's nice to obtain those things in your quest for freedom. But yeah, that's really I think that's what success looks like to me, is just me being able to show up as myself, me not feeling like I have to diminish my light in order
Mm.
to get by.
Mm.
You know, I
Right.
think it's big for me. I feel like oftentimes, especially in the corporate space, I just have to. I feel like I have this daunting thing on me, like, don't say too much. Don't, like, your jokes. They got to be cultural neutral. They got, you can't really talk about too many things. Um, Stay quiet, and it's I really, I think what success looks like for me is just being able to move freely, being able to wake up. If I want to create something that day, I'll create it. If I want to spend time, knock on wood, if I have kids one day, I want to have a day with my kids. Let's do it. And so whatever that looks like, however I can achieve that is the goal.
Awesome. Now, clearly, we talked about you being a storyteller and sort of being working in community. How do you show up as a volunteering and giving back to your community? What does that look like?
So I kind of alluded to it, but I guess I'll speak. I'm a really big advocate for mental health. I think just with my journey, I've seen how much it's impacted my life, and so I guess the way I show up for community right now, it might be small, it might be corny, but I literally just, whenever I think of people, I just send them a text and say, "Hey, wellness check."
Mm.
Just tell me how you're feeling. And some of my friends, they probably think I'm annoying with it. I'm always like, fine is not an acceptable answer. Good is not an acceptable answer. Give me something. And I just try to be a listening ear. I've realized that like for a lot of people's issues in life, you can't really do much to fix it. But I know it's important. I know for me, just like when I've been going through stuff, it's like, it's important just to have people that you know that do support you and do have your best interests at heart. So yeah, that's what I do. I just shoot out a text, give them a call, like, hey, wellness check. What's going on with you?
That's
I
awesome.
noticed this. Last time we talked about this, you were going through this, you were happy about this. Is that still the case? And yeah, I think just showing up for people whenever I can. I'm really big on like if someone invites me to coffee or to hang out at their house or show up to one of their events, I try my hardest to go. Because I know everyone is not comfortable with just asking for help or asking for support. So yeah, that's what I do. I try my best to do it in that way. So yeah, it might be small, but I feel like it's it's what I would want, and I feel like it's a lot to me. So that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. So now I'm interested in like this next question, just because, your background as a storyteller.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like, if you have an opportunity to do a story or to produce a piece of work, to talk about what should the narrative be about what it means to be a Black man in today's culture. Like, how would you do it? What would you say?
So that's a funny question that you asked because I am in the process of writing a movie right now. So that's really funny that you asked that. And it just really, I can't give away everything, but I've been really studying. And so ever since I was in college, my freshman year, I remember I walked in and I had a Black professor. It was African American Studies class. And he was like, yeah, we're for your homework, we're going to read Ta-Nehisi Coates' The Case for Reparations. And anybody that knows that piece, it's a very dense piece of work, but basically just talks about like why us as Black people have not received reparations, what reparations would look like, what all sectors of our world does that have to address. And so what the movie's about is addressing like what it would take for us to actually get reparations. So that is something I'm currently working on. Specifically for Black men, I have this dream passion project of creating a nonprofit to give Black men the resources to be more just for their wellness. No strings attached. If you're Black, if you're Black adjacent, whatever, you want to go to therapy, cool, we'll cover your copays. Oh, you need a gym membership, you upset because your back is bigger than what you want it to be. Let's get you a membership. Let's go ahead and do what you got to do. You just need people to sit down and talk to. Let's do it. Let's organize, weekly meetings or monthly meetings. Let's all connect. And so that's what's on the horizon for me. I don't know when that's going to happen. That could be this year, next year, 10 years, or when I am 60 years old. I don't know when it's going to be. But that is the ultimate goal for me. That's one of my big passion projects. So yes, to do it within like real life, but then to also do it on the screen is kind of my vision with that.
So how can people follow you? Are you on social media, or where can you follow your work and your journey, your stories and your movies?
Yeah. I don't really have a website or anything like that. So I guess it's social media. First and last name, Josh Cobb on Facebook. Twitter is Josh at Josh Cobbler, Cobbler. Instagram is Cobb Unplugged, Cobb Unplugged, Unplugged. Yeah, that's where I'm at. You can shoot me an email too. Should I get my personal email out?
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so my personal email is my first name, joshua.s.cobb@gmail.com. So yeah, I'm always down to connect, show support. Yeah, I love just hearing and interacting and connecting with Black men of all ages. I had had an interesting group of when I lived down south for a little bit, there was like a group of black men that was all like above 50 that we used to just connect like 2-3 times a week, and I just loved it. So yeah, I just love just meeting new dudes, seeing what they do for a living, how they think about life, how they process life, how they navigate this world looking like us. So yeah.
Wow.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, Josh, I mean, I'm honored that you took some time out to like really interview with us, man. You know, I know you could be doing a million other things, and you know, there's so much that you share here today that really is changing the narrative. So we really appreciate you for being a guest on the podcast, and
thank you
for all the work that you're doing and all the things that you're trying to shed light on, even in your profession. So we appreciate that, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Look, I'm always, I think stuff like this is always a good reminder of like, yeah, like, you are being seen a little bit. So I appreciate that. And so I'm going to internalize that. I'm going to run with it. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for contacting me and reaching out. This is dope.